In 1888, Lawson, Andrew, Scruggs, married Lucy Johnson. Both were born as slaves. Both were students at Shaw University in the 1880s, where they fell in love. Lucy Johnson graduated in 1883. Lawson Andrew graduated from medical school in 1886. Born into slavery, freed after the American Civil War in 1865, educated at Shaw University. This was the life story of many African Americans in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the end of the 19th century. Shaw University is more than just bricks and mortar. One, historical context. The Northern States Union, which wanted to abolish slavery, won against the Southern States Confederate, which wanted to continue and expand slavery. After the Union victory, slavery was banned throughout the United States, documented with the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified on December 6, 1865. One year before the Civil War, a census was taken in the United States in 1860. The census recorded 31,443,321 people, of which 4 million were slaves. Almost all of the slaves were located in the southern states. After the end of the Civil War, these 4 million slaves were free. Most of them were without money, without a home, and without any education. 2. The first classroom. After the end of the Civil War, Baptist minister Henry Martin Tupper, from Wales, Massachusetts, arrived in Raleigh, North Carolina. Tupper came to Raleigh to help the freed slaves with their most basic needs. While the South was trying to satisfactorily and justly solve this difficult problem, there came to Raleigh, from Massachusetts, the land of our Pilgrim forefathers, a young man, 25 years of age, who had just laid aside the honorable uniform of a private soldier. In December 1865, Henry Morton Tupper began holding Bible classes and literacy courses for freed slaves in Raleigh, North Carolina. The classes took place in a hotel room in what was then the Guion Hotel. The hotel no more exists, was renamed several times, then rebuilt and demolished. Three. The first school, Raleigh Institute. The hotel room quickly became too small, and Henry Martin Tupper used $500 he had saved from his military service to purchase a plot of land in Raleigh. Together with students, he built a 2-story wooden building on this spot that could be used as a church and school building. The project was supported by the Freedmen's Bureau and the Baptist Church Society. This school was known as Raleigh Institute. Sarah Baker Leonard, Tupper's wife, also began teaching literacy classes for freed African American women in this school. At a memorial service held in 1893 to mark the death of Henry M. Tupper, former student Reverend George Perry spoke about the early days of Shaw University in this church school building. 4. Shaw Collegiate Institute. In 1870, there was an opportunity to purchase a large plot of land, the Barringer Estate, 2 blocks away from the Raleigh Institute, as a new school campus. But the money had already been spent on the land and the church school building on Blount Street. Tupper traveled north to his birthplace in Massachusetts, where he tried to raise the money needed for the property and for new school buildings. In Wales, Massachusetts, he was able to convince Elijah Shaw to make a large donation for the new school in Raleigh. Elijah Shaw was a multiple woolen mill owner and Baptist church member from Wales, Massachusetts. Thanks to Elijah Shaw's generous donation, the Freedmen's Bureau, and other donors, in 1870, the property was purchased. Construction of a new school building began immediately. The Raleigh map of 1872 shows exactly this first construction phase. Bricks were formed from clay from the property, and students helped build the new school building. The first students were not teenagers like today. They were men and women, many of whom were between 35 and 50 years old. Imagine that just 5 years ago in 1865, these African American students were slaves, and now they are building their own school. A school that can and will forever change their lives and the future of their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. This image has immense historical value. The exact date when the building was completed, whether in 1872, 1873, or 1874, is unknown. This is the former property owner, Barringer residence, which was already on the grounds. The building was not demolished and was used now as teachers' housing. So, this was the first school building to be erected on the new campus. The new school building was used as a men's dormitory and as a coeducational school, which means a mixed school for men and women. This new school was named Shaw Collegiate Institute, in honor of Elijah Shaw, who continued to support the school. The building was named Estey Hall. Estey Hall was probably meant to be larger than this building, as shown by a cover illustration in the 1876 university catalog. It seems a larger central nave with an added church, or hall, was planned at first. This variant was never built, but I recreated it as a 3D model so you can see how huge the building would have been. This variant was probably not built because of technical or financial reasons. The costs would probably have doubled. A smaller central block, as tower, without the rear extension, was chosen. However, the side wings were adopted almost exactly as shown in the illustration of the huge building. The amount Elijah Shaw donated varies, depending on the source. It is clear that Elijah Shaw was a major donor, but there were also many small donors who supported the building of this school. Drawings of what Estey Hall looked like back then can be found in the 1886 catalog or in the book, A School History of the Negro Race in America, from 1619 to 1890. This book was written in 1890 by Edward Austin Johnson. Edward Austin Johnson, an African-American who was born into slavery in Wake County, North Carolina, in 1860. Johnson himself studied law at Shaw University and later lectured there. October 1865, Baptist minister Henry Martin Tupper arrives in Raleigh, North Carolina. December 1865, Tupper gives theology, reading and writing lessons to former African American slaves at the Guion Hotel. 1866, Tupper builds a church school building at the corner of Blount and Cabarrus Streets, the Raleigh Institute. 1870, Tupper purchases the former Barringer estate. 1870 to 1872, Tupper and his students build a new school building. 1872, the new school is named Shaw Collegiate Institute. The building is named Estey Hall. Estey Hall. After Estey Hall was completed at the new campus in 1872, it was used as a men's dormitory and as a co-educational school. Co-education, also known as mixed-sex education or as mixed-gender education, is a system of education where female and male students are educated together. Since they did not want to place the women in the men's dormitory, it was decided to build a separate women's dormitory. Henry Morton Tupper once again traveled north to find new funding for the women's dormitory project. Many of Shaw University's earliest supporters were factory mill owners or business people from the northern United States. Most of them were also members of the Baptist church community. A selection of Shaw University's first donors from the period 1876 to 1891 can be seen here. Tupper was able to enlist Jacob Estey of Brattleboro, Vermont, as a donor for the women's dormitory project. Jacob Estey was a free reed organ builder from Brattleboro, Vermont, who, in 1872, had just built the largest free reed organ factory in the world. Jacob Estey was since 1840 a member, founder, and supporter of the Brattleboro Baptist Church, and was known as a generous philanthropist. Jacob Estey came from a poor background and had to overcome a difficult childhood, which is likely why he later devoted himself to helping those in need or at a disadvantage. Thus, in 1873-1874, with the help of Jacob Estey, a women's dormitory was built on the Shaw Collegiate Institute campus. In 1874, the building was completed and named Estey Seminary and later Estey Hall. The new dormitory had room for about 100 female students and was also be used for classrooms. This building is mentioned as the first building constructed for the higher education of African American women in the United States. Estey Hall, dormitory and school for African American women, built 1874. The Board of Trustees of Shaw University, from the 1876 catalog, includes Jacob Estey, Elijah Shaw, and Levi Knight Fuller as president. Levi Knight Fuller was the son-in-law of Jacob Estey, who was also committed to establishing Shaw University. Levi Knight Fuller made a career as an engineer at the Estey Organ Company and was later elected governor of Vermont. Fuller probably supported the construction of Estey Hall in architectural matters. Trustee George M. Morse of Putnam, Connecticut, is also mentioned in the catalogs as one of the donors of the new girls' dormitory, Estey Hall. The 1876 catalog includes a drawing of Estey Hall that differs somewhat from the finished building. It is likely an early draft. However, the roofs for the entrances were never built. Shaw Collegiate Institute, Raleigh, North Carolina. Campus 1874. 6. Shaw University. Campus 1874. In 1875, Shaw Collegiate Institute was officially established by the state of North Carolina as Shaw University. Henry Morton Tupper, who had started 10 years ago with a Bible study class in the former Guion Hotel, became the first president of the Shaw University. Shaw University was attended mostly by African Americans, but was open to all students of race, religion, or gender. The teaching staff in 1876. Courses of study from the 1876-1877 catalog. In 1876, there were 240 students, 151 men, and 89 women. Women were allowed to do their own laundry at the university, while men had to pay an extra fee of 50 cents per month each for laundry services. There were also lessons for organ and piano playing. Theology students could receive a scholarship. First graduates can be found in the 1878 catalog. Most of the fees were covered by the donors and the trustees, as most of the students were poor. Greenleaf Hall. A new building was constructed on the campus in 1879. The chapel and dining hall. This building had probably been planned by Tupper for a long time and was intended to be a chapel and of course the dining hall. The building was later renamed Greenleaf Hall. Orrick Herman Greenleaf was a paper manufacturer from Springfield, Massachusetts, who built a large fortune in his life. A devout Baptist and philanthropist, he donated a large portion of his fortune to charity and donated part of it to Shaw University. Mr. Orrick Herman Greenleaf served on the Shaw University Board of Trustees. Mr. Greenleaf came from the same area as university founder Henry Morton Tupper and first donor Elijah Shaw.